Okay, it's page 8. Page 8 of the All is Fair in 11 Parking Meters. The layers of alcohol in the last 24 hours begin to shape the day into a blurry soap opera. Santiago's mind was floating. He should have been exhausted but memories sparked him with curious energy. Too many bottles of Domaine Perali later, he shambled on to the afternoon train for Corte as the English colony waved an overwined goodbye and begged him to stay in touch. Santiago fell in his seat and passed out. The conductor had to ask Santiago twice for the tickets. Sorry, Santiago stammered. Oh la la, the conductor said. The agony of attempting to speak French came back. Excusez-moi, pardon, Santiago said meekly. The conductor sniffed, looked at Santiago sourly, then took the tickets and whispered in French, Salut d'école. Santiago stiffened with a slang obscenity. He felt anger rising as images from the past swept by the windows. He tried to forget. By rail, it is 90 kilometers from Ajaccio to Corte. The diesel-powered coaches of the Corsican Railway climb slowly over the mountains through the tunnels and make the journey in 2 hours. Santiago finally began to relax into a doze when the train arrived 17 minutes late at the Corte station. Jostled awake, he grabbed his backpack and stepped wearily off the train into the hot afternoon sun. A thread of mountain air was over his face as he moved across the platform. He flicked his eyes from side to side, expecting fans to be standing under the shadows of the mottled stone depot. It all looked so familiar. People walked around him, greeting friends and family. He searched for Neil, but all he saw were Corsicans and other tourists. Santiago considered the long walk to the hotel, but the decision was made for him as passengers and taxis disappeared, leaving dust and silence. Santiago rubbed his face and tried to push some feeling into his brain. His body felt its 50 years. He was aching from plane and train seats embossed in his spine. The prelude to a giant hangover was banging in his head. He reached into his pocket for his ever-present aspirin and gulped water. There were still a few hours of light. The walkthrough was doing good. He slung the backpack onto his shoulders, took a slow, deep breath, and pointed himself towards the Rastanica Gorge. Santiago knew the road leading up the first 3 kilometers to the Rastanica Gorge was gentle and windy, but then changed abruptly at the Auberge de la Rastanica. The next 13 kilometers ascended to high alpine country, nearly 4,000 meters above the Mediterranean. He had been there with Martina when the top of the gorge lay in a ragged white remnants of winter, and the foot was baked in summer sun. The Rastanica River was fed by melting snow and glacier fields year-round. The clear water was so icy it felt like fire. He adopted the Corsican time, stretched the walk to nearly 3 hours. The sun set early as it always does in the gorge. Twilight held back the night. As he approached the Auberge, Santiago laughed. Nothing had changed about the rusty granite stone hotel but the number of dogs. Beastly permutations of mutt, lust, yapped and waggled their tails accompanying to the glowing lights of the entrance lobby. He hesitated at the heavy wooden double doors and peeked through the ingrained glass windows. He thought again of Martina being there with him one late night 10 years before, but now he hoped to find Neil, who he loved in another way. The two pink-faced Germans stood at the lobby desk, while to their left stood a finely dressed woman. She was talking to someone out of sight. Beyond the woman, Santiago could see a broad arched doorway. It opened to a small den with a rock-faced fireplace and two reddish-cracked leather armchairs. In one he could see the back of a balding head and corduroy knees protruding. To the right of the lobby was another doorway opening to the dining room. It was impossible to see more than the corner of the empty table. Santiago pushed the doors open and bumped his way into the lobby. A finely dressed woman was rattling out a string of Italian, giving swift instructions to a man who appeared to be either an obedient servant or a groveling husband. The woman stopped in mid-sentence as she bounced her eyes off Santiago and then raised one shoulder as if to fend off a cold wind. Santiago was used to such chilled reaction. The way a mongrel dog knows what it means when a man stoops for a rock. It must be her husband, he thought. The two Germans were asking a old man at the counter if a room was available. Santiago passed on through to the den to have a closer look at the knees. He saw a protruding belly and a sort of pushing the weave tight. A fleshy face beamed up and caught. He returned the greeting, observing the other armchair contained a small poodle wedged into a cushion. He hunched his shoulders to the side and let the backpack slide off next to the armchair. The poodle gave it a sniff. "That's it, pal. Guard the bag. You make a great watchdog." The poodle's eyes fell sleepily. He walked back through the lobby, entering the dining room, and saw two couples sitting at separate tables. Santiago looked beyond them through two large glass doors opening onto a patio. You could see the dim figure of a man turned away looking in the direction of the river. The man stood straight with his arms crooked at the elbows, hands on the hips, and Neil's hallmark, the Scottish kilt. Santiago quickly stepped to the kitchen window that served as a bar. A gray-haired lady was placing glasses on a shelf. "Excusez-moi, c'est possible d'ouvrir le whisky, s'il vous plaît? Merci beaucoup." The woman smiled, answered in perfect English. "Oh, you must be thirsty. Do you want ice?" No, just whiskey. Merci. Is it okay to pay later with a meal?" "But of course, listen." Stars were beginning to fill the clear night, and the mountains around the Auberge were like frozen black waves. He was in 3 steps of Neil when he said in a loud John Wayne imitation, "Partner, you giving up drinking red dye?" Neil whirled, his kilt spinning around his legs. "Ah, you wee rascal, you caught me up." Neil laughed and both men stepped together to embrace. One of the whiskeys tipped and went down his back. "Ah, you wee bugger." Santiago stood back and held the remaining whiskey between them. "Maybe you ought to try putting some of this in your mouth. I'm told the effects are wondrous." End of page 8.